Ahoy me mateys. Today we've got a SpongeBob SquarePants YouTube video essay for you. Video essay. Not just saying that for the SEO. Hey, are you a bubble blowing baby?
Who blew this bubble?
Don't you think I don't know how to weed them out? As a self-designated distinguished member of Generation Zooted, I for one can say that a lot of shows we watched as kids might have been the source of a lot of our intellectual disabilities. That being said, I want to explore some of these shows which would be labeled as skibidi brain rot by today's standards. With that being said, let's find out if SpongeBob was brain rot or not, and uncover whether or not there is an actual thematic substance we can derive from the show. Will we come out of a SpongeBob episode with as much big brain as we entered with? Now, I've encountered a lot of people who've told me over the years that their parents would not let them watch SpongeBob. You're banned from watching SpongeBob. Like it all, because it turns their brains into spaghetti.
Somebody touch my spaghetti!
Looking back in hindsight, I can kind of see an argument for it.
All right, Pinhead, your time is up.
Who you calling Pinhead?
The humor in SpongeBob was somewhat biting and tactical in my personal opinion, as they had their fair share of calculated adult humor threaded and woven into the show, which often was wisely placed and carried double meanings, which looking back would make you even question if it was a kid's show at all. Like when Gary walks in on SpongeBob in this episode and he's watching something on the grungier side of Bikini Bottom. And of course, the panty raid.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
It's essentially an episode where SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs, and Patrick raided Mr. Krabs' mom's dresser for her panties, which in recent years siphoned a degree of controversy and influenced Nickelodeon to stop airing the episode, I believe. Kind of shows you how kind of cupcake our world is getting. These adult jokes often left you to fill in the rest of the gaps with your own imagination, if you know what I mean.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, that doesn't mean any of the satirical jokes that seem surface level to us as kids don't harbor any meaning, such as with the office guy who we see from frame to frame going through the mundane motions of life.
Coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
Synonymous with being trapped in an everyday cyclical routine, reflecting a portion of the population who are not happy with their careers, place in life, and are simply going through the motions to survive. Then there's a scene where the doctor finds out Mr. Krabs, who got ill, didn't have any life insurance.
Oh no, this is horrible.
What is it, Doctor?
This man has no insurance.
He'll never be able to afford this room.
You're right, nurse. Extract the patient to the hallway. Stat!
Then they kicked him out of the hospital despite him being in a critically ill condition. What seemed to us as a joke at the time is now becoming a reality, isn't it? And many of us know the current sentiment the general population holds towards insurance companies. It's funny, but a lot of the jokes we viewed as throwaways and giggled at as kids actually carry some meaningful weight, poking fun at work culture, the broken healthcare system, or just the bleak monotony of adult life itself. What looked like pure silliness on the surface often doubled as commentary that only really clicks once you're older. And perhaps that's part of the genius of SpongeBob, the fact that the humor wasn't just isolated to kids, it was layered enough to say something looking back at the show as an adult. While some of the jokes in SpongeBob harbored some meaningfulness, it's not like the show didn't have its fair share of brain-rotting humor as well, with its comical play on instruments.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
Or with the chocolate fish screaming his lungs all to hell.
Chocolate! 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 Chocolate!
And just that looking back holistically, there was a healthy balance of some sort. Yet when I've recently visited some of the new SpongeBob episodes that Generation Alpha is consuming, well, my God, I felt like my damn brain was getting shredded into a blender with all its gray matter being extracted with each passing nanosecond. I mean, is this what it's like getting old? Hey, no zoomer jokes. The humor in SpongeBob appears to be transforming to feed the hunger for the next generation of kids and move beyond the big brain ether sphere and section whatever the hell this is supposed to be within the plane of normality. However, on the up and up, it does look like Patrick got to finish his mayonnaise as an instrument character arc. Generally, I'd say the range of humor in SpongeBob consisted of a lopsided mix of brain rot and calculated humor, of course leaning more towards the brain rot aspects of things. However, there are satirical jokes that are both hilarious and carry tokens of meaning, which reflect the mundane, cruel, and harping aspects of reality itself. If you do enough digging, you might even find that the humor laces in more adult jokes than you initially realized. While there was an undeniable scale of absurdist humor within SpongeBob, there were thematic principles riddled throughout a vast majority of the episodes, at least the ones that I personally remember watching. So did SpongeBob and all of its maniacal escapades and antics teach us any lessons about life, or was it all just nonsensical banter without any structure, all phooey? I, for one, can decipher more than a few thematic patterns from his episodes. Who remembers that episode called Procrastination, when SpongeBob receives a 100-word essay assignment on what not to do at a stoplight? Instead of focusing on the mundane essays, Sponge Boy finds every opportunity to distract himself from the task at hand, including feeding Gary an excessive amount of food, and after he gets one word written after a span of a few hours, rewards himself with a break, talking his own head off in the kitchen, and eventually the mailman who delivers a package in the dead of night. Also, what kind of mailman is rolling the streets of Bikini Bottom? You knock on my door at night? You knock on my door at night? That's when the forks, the spoons, the baby oil come out. And so we're presented with the number one consequence of procrastination that emerges when straying from the task at hand, that being time. Now, like many, I wasn't looking for the core message in episodes of SpongeBob when I was young. The one from this episode can definitely reflect the issue many of us have with concentrating our focus and energy on more meaningful tasks in this dopamine-driven society. As this episode suggests, time isn't an entity that's readily clawed back, and that rewarding savory diversions compromise efficiency. We all know that SpongeBob can have its fair share of brain rot, but let's not say there weren't any tokens of knowledge seeping within the pores of our spongy friend. Do not look at me like that. You know you did. You know you watched SpongeBob.
Like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward?
Other than some of SpongeBob's nonsensical humor and tomfoolery, there was a thematic method to the madness, a subset of life knowledge one could derive after watching some of its episodes. We all know that Squidward plays like he's choking on a cucumber, but tends to be the most present when these life lessons arise. One such lesson being not to let others take advantage of your kindness. In the episode titled Spare Change, Squidward gets pissed off at Mr. Krabs and quits his job after being accused of stealing his first dime. Unable to find work, he ends up on the side of the street begging. That is until SpongeBob decides to take him in, but only until he finds another job, which of course Squidward takes advantage of. The episode shows us that kindness can be a double-edged sword if wielded without the strength, structure, or backbone to regulate boundaries, as well as highlights the premise that everyone, even someone like SpongeBob, has a boiling point if the temperature is cranked high enough to shatter their patience.
And fix it!
I got a better idea. Why don't I call someone whose job it is to fix it? You know why? Because when I need a job done, I get someone with a job to do that job.
What are you saying?
Squidward felt safer using SpongeBob and chomping at his helping hand simply because he knew that SpongeBob's innate nature was passive and held that naive perspective of everyone internally holding the same ideals and values about life as he did. This is the exact reason why SpongeBob kept making excuses for Squidward not getting a job over and over and over again, even when Gary initially warned him that Squidward was freeloading. If you haven't already, maybe take a look back at SpongeBob with your adult perspective in mind. I, for one, find it intriguing looking back on the show since as a kid, you're just lounging about for some laughs and giggles while the core essence of the episode whizzes over your head. You may find more substance in the show than you think. Funny enough, a lot of the SpongeBob episodes where there is substance are swimming in the pool of the older SpongeBob episodes. You need more SpongeBob.
I don't need it.
You need it.
I don't need it.
You need it.
I need it!
Let's take a look at where SpongeBob first meets Sandy, and where we're met with a heavier lesson illustrating the importance of maintaining the authenticity of oneself. When SpongeBob first meets Sandy, he's immediately impressed by her karate skills and adventurous personality. But when she invites him into her tree dome, a place that SpongeBob realizes has absolutely no water, which makes it a hazardous place for a sponge to say the least, he puts on a facade to save face. The episode is about the dangers of maintaining appearances and how donning a facade and masking authenticity doesn't shift the axis of reality. This is apparent when Patrick spearheads in ignoring SpongeBob, who looks like he's practically on his deathbed, until Patrick himself finds out he's in starfish hell.
You're doing fine. I won't let you blow this. What kind of place is this?
Veiling authenticity doesn't cape reality. In fact, it maintains the potential to claw that false image away if aggravated, highlighting that the authentic self will always bleed through with time, regardless of efforts to superficially cast it into the abyss. This episode illustrates the importance of letting others measure you based on the rawest form of who you are, not to buy someone's acceptance with a false image that will eventually slough off regardless. If a group of people need to accept a false version of yourself to accept you as a person, then maybe that's just not the right group of people for you. I'm gonna kick your butt.
I'm gonna kick your butt.
No, seriously, I'm gonna kick your butt. There was an important episode on SpongeBob where they tackle the social and power dynamics of bullying through SpongeBob's interaction with Flats the Flounder. What happens is that SpongeBob basically introduces himself to Flats the Flounder, and then Flats just goes from 0 to 100. Like, put the fries in the bag, linguine, pastrami, and don't forget the sauce. We see SpongeBob wrestling with fear throughout the course of the episode, finding no rationale or reasoning for antagonizing Flats, oblivious to the fact that Flats' aggression only mirrored his innate personality. In other words, it was just an element of who Flats was. Perhaps the substance of this episode is where we follow SpongeBob turning to fellow constituents for aid or advice on the matter, but none are able to offer assistance in this matter. Well, not with regards to Flats. Funny enough, after streaking through Bikini Bottom and screaming to the top of his lungs, SpongeBob even turns to Flats' dad, and his dad passes the buck because he's scared of getting his ass whipped too. The central message whenever the issue for bullying emerges tends to just be to reach out to other people for help, right? But I do believe SpongeBob captures the realistic component of what many of these people might go through, and others recusing themselves due to the cultural and societal pressures to maintain their own standing and status within an institution and not create a position for themselves of becoming the victim as well. Now, I don't condone violence, but there is the pathway of squaring up and throwing a two-piece McNugget the other guy's way too. But just like with SpongeBob, not everyone can rise to the occasion. Problem is that unresolved aggression from being perceived as less than calls the person being picked on to take up arms and direct that rage at something undeserving of it, which tends to be the pattern of behavior you see a lot in many of the school shooting incidents. Generally, I'm surprised that SpongeBob took on this issue within the episode, as it can be perceived as a more darker aspect for the realities we face as humanity, struggling to escape from our cloak of violence, but it does illustrate the erratic nature of violence and the fact that you don't need a logical reason to become a victim of our culture of violence, and convincing those who've made up their mind to enact violence with rationale might not bring about resolution, especially if the source is unfounded. Overall, I would not blankly slot SpongeBob into the category of brain rot, as there are a healthy helping of episodes when thoroughly assessed for structure and core messaging that actually promote what society would deem as righteous and morally acceptable behavior. If it lacked any resounding principle or indicators of lessons of principle, then of course the gavel bangs the other way. While there are a hefty helping of your nonsensical jokes and goofy goober behavior, there is thematic substance that you can extract from SpongeBob, as well as a few giggles and chuckles along the way. Let me know in the comments what you think of SpongeBob. Was it brain rot or not? Explain why, and you better not be a bubble blowing, goofy goober Weenie Hut Jr. eating baby in disguise.
We're on a baby hunt, and don't think we don't know how to weed them out.
Hey people, I have a gaming channel, by the way. I have a gaming channel, and I'm going to start playing Hollow Knight in a few. Hollow Knight 1. But I got a little Claire Obscure character analysis over there if you play the game. It's pretty interesting. If you want more analysis of your favorite shows, not limited to the writing, the characters, the world itself, then go ahead and put it below in the comment section. And smash that like button, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. Remember that the direction of progress is forward, and it's only up from here. I will leave a link to my socials in the description below. It seems like we have more people in the Discord. And with that, remember, if ever you're lost in a forest, reward, strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there your mind will run free.